Okay. Welcome back. Now this breakout one, the theme for the 4 talks that will be presented are called Frontier Technologies in Food Systems. So may I now invite the first speaker for this breakout, Gertrude from Farm Radio International. Okay. And I also request the other speakers, if you're already here, could you identify yourself? Joel is here. Violet, I already saw. Emeka is here from Kiwo2 Technology Company. All right, that's fine. Please. You have about 12 minutes for your presentation, 3 minutes of Q&A.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ram. Gertrude Nalubinga is my name. I work with Farm Radio International as a program officer for East Africa. A good afternoon to you all. I'm here to take you through a presentation on how we are promoting nature-based solutions using interactive radio in Africa. Okay. I need help with moving the slides.
No, you just use the back one. Is it more?
It's not moving.
Okay, hold on. Can you move that? This is a PDF, yeah. So just try to get control.
Okay, so as we wait for the slides to move, my presentation is about 8 slides, and it will have a brief about Farm Radio International, who we are, and the context leading to the innovation that I'm sharing about.
Now you can use the arrows on your.
Okay, thank you. So briefly, I'll tell you about Farm Radio, the context that is leading to the innovation that we are talking about, and then still localizing impact through inclusion, innovation, and inspiration, which is the theme of this conference. So Farm Radio International, I know some of us may not have heard about it. It's not a radio station. It's an international non-profit organization that works or that uses radio combined with mobile phones to promote knowledge sharing, to amplify voices of the farmers and the people who are least heard in rural areas, and to support positive change. So we have offices all over Africa, in East Africa and West Africa, partners in countries where we don't have offices. For example, we have offices in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Tanzania, in Uganda, and so on and so forth. So we are able to work in about 40 countries of Africa because we work with radio, and we have over 1,300 radio partners in Africa. To deliver our work, we work with various partners, as you can see on the screen, governments, research institutions, radio stations are core in our business, and how we deliver work is through 3 main streams. That is radio projects, where we get into impact radio programming to achieve certain outcomes. I would say we are doing communication for development using radio and ICT. We choose radio because it's one of the most common communication means available in Africa. It's easy to use and accessible. So we do radio programs to create awareness, to do social behavior change communication, maybe handle issues of agriculture, climate change, gender equality, and so on and so forth. We do radio innovations, and this is where the ICT comes in. We promote, we make radio interactive, a 2-way means of communication where farmers can interact with experts through radio programs. And then we have radio resources. This is open source scripts that are provided to radio stations and the world at large to design interactive and quality radio programs. So I'll move on first to the next slide, what is leading to this innovation that I'm going to share about. So with support from the Global Affairs Canada, Farm Radio is working with different stakeholders to address the issue of climate change and biodiversity loss. So these 2 things are no longer a myth. It is real, it is happening to all of us in different angles, though the measures keep differing. So we are using various radio formats and the smartphones, as well as the basic feature phones. We focus so much on the basic feature phones because these are more available and more usable by the farmers, given the literacy levels in Africa, than the smartphones. But nevertheless, we work with phones to talk about nature-based solutions and how communities are using indigenous knowledge and new science to adapt to climate change. What nature-based solutions are they doing? And by nature-based solutions, I mean those actions that are addressing different societal challenges. For example, food insecurity, water insecurity, human health, ecosystem degradation, and then climate risks like drought, floods. So we are identifying or working with communities to identify their adaptation needs, to access information about nature-based solutions in Africa, and to customize those solutions to their needs. So this is happening in 6 countries in Africa, as you can see, in Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Ghana, Uganda, and Zambia, and we hope to expand to 14 more countries. We are in, it's a 5-year project, which started in 2022. I would say we are in the 3rd year of rolling out. And in this, we are working with, actually, it's 25 stations, 25 radio stations in 6 of those focus countries to produce what we call high impact radio series. By this, I mean, for example, radio documentaries, which are focused on community stories. What are communities saying? How are they addressing climate change? How are they adapting? But at the back of it all, we integrate ICT, or we integrate an online platform called Uliza to promote interactions and participation by the farmers who are not able to run various digital technologies. So their only point of contact is the radio, and then the broadcasters, and we connect them to the knowledge experts that are out there that they may not even know about or have costs, cannot meet the costs of engaging them. So the ultimate goal is to improve, to promote improved gender and inclusive climate resilient communities in Sub-Saharan Africa. In this, we are doing 3 things: promoting community action on nature-based solutions, and promoting policy responsiveness to community needs, but using at the center of it all interactive radio, because this is an affordable means of promoting interactions. So what is it that we are doing? How are we promoting localizing impact through inclusion? We've engaged in various research and consultation with communities and leaders on the nature-based solutions or actions that they are engaging, and ask them why are they engaging in this? When we talk about nature-based solutions, we are basing on the criteria that was put in place by the IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Nature. So it has quite a lengthy criteria, and we've customized this to the community needs. So communities analyze and share stories based on their experiences, and we document what they're saying through documentaries. So there's a standard we set through community consultations. They tell us that this is what we are implementing, and this is why we are choosing to implement it. So if you're engaged, for example, in agroforestry, why are you choosing that? Farmer managed natural regeneration, why are you choosing that? How is it relevant to your context? Is it replicable? Is it sustainable? Is it economically viable? So we look at the needs of nature and the needs of the people, because you can't keep telling me that plant trees, yet I do not have food. That is not possible. You'll obviously be misleading me. So the beauty is that we promote inclusion by organizing these communities into community listening groups. Some are women-only groups, some are youth, some are mixed, men, women, and women. Men, women, and youth. And we try to see that they get to engage with leaders. We are consulting them and collecting a lot of data using ICT integrated in the radio programs. That is then, the data that is coming in is presented to leaders through dialogue events to see that we advocate for those nature-based solutions that our communities are prioritizing and based on the needs that have been identified. So we have engaged in what we call on-air dialogues. Still, these are consultations using radio to understand the knowledge levels, people's opinions. What are they saying? What do they want their leaders to prioritize? And we organize dialogue events as well as stakeholder roundtable meetings to engage different people. moving on, this is what I've been talking about in all the previous slides, captured in one summary. We are using interactive radio approaches. These are different. We have radio documentaries. We have what we call participatory radio campaigns. We have what we call on-air dialogues, podcasts, and we have created a platform where there is a lot of engagement, a lot of knowledge sharing from the communities or the farmers to the leaders. So down here, where you see high impact radio programs, that is where we do the documentaries. And they have a criteria, which I'm afraid I cannot go through because of time. And then the mini participatory radio campaigns. Here we are encouraging communities to share their experiences, but also to maintain those practices that are friendly to the environment, but also looking at their livelihoods. And then we hope, and we are seeing that communities are able to sustain those solutions that they're engaged in. But we're also working with different partners who are on ground. As I said, we do communication for development. So to deliver a solid intervention, we work with experts, knowledge experts, research institutions, the governments, fellow NGOs, women organizations, and we promote wide-scale awareness creation, awareness on nature-based solutions, and encourage communities or inspire communities to learn from their own peers. So we've also produced podcasts, although these are mostly used for targeting the Canadian audience and the whole world at large. In Africa, we are using mostly those documentaries and the participatory radio series. So what you see down here are the inputs, I would say. So the ICT comes in when we do the evaluation for each of the radio programs that we are doing. At least out of the 100, 60% is evaluated to see where we capture the demographics of what are women saying, what are the men saying, what are the youth saying, what are the priorities. Community X is involved in this. Is this story worth it? Can we go and document this story? And we work with the communities to tell their stories. So this data that comes in through the ICT system called Uliza, I think Uliza in the Swahili language is ask, farmers get to interact through the radio programs. They ask questions, make submissions, debate, and also sometimes they might be resisting what you're saying, and they might have a reason. So you have a feedback system, an instant feedback system where farmers get their questions answered, and on the other end, they're also providing feedback through the on-air dialogue. Still, I've already mentioned that. And where it all ends up is influencing policy, mobilizing community voices, especially those that are least heard, to reach the policymakers so that they prioritize what communities need. You know, if a leader does not know what's happening on ground, they're not likely to be that responsive. But if they are touched and have live examples, are engaged in the radio programs, then we hope to see the change, as you'll see in the next two slides. So as I almost come to a conclusion, this is a project, it's a 5-year project. This is, I would say we are starting year 3 of implementation, and we've done an evaluation out of the 6 countries where we are working. We've done an evaluation of 3 of the countries to see the impact of what is happening. That is in Burkina Faso, in Uganda, and in Zambia. And just in 2 years, we have been able to reach more than 9 million people, including 52% of these being men, 48% being women. And a combination of this, we see 60% youth that are being engaged. On the other side of the bar, those are the different programs that we've put in, the episodes, the radio documentaries, the participatory radio campaigns. And I would say that it's not just any usual radio programming. It's very intentional that we get into research which tells us what stations people are listening to, what knowledge gaps they have, when do they listen to these radio programs, what information they need. So it's a lot of input. And then in these 2 years still, we have seen quite a number of interactions, over 120 people discussing nature-based solutions concerning agriculture, forests, savanna grasslands, and wetlands. Yeah, and as I come to my last slide, so when it comes to policy still, we are seeing increased debate on nature-based solutions. You know, these things have been happening for centuries, but the discussions have not been taking place. and we have different terminologies that we use. But we are seeing that, for example, in Burkina Faso, because of the debates that are going on, there's identification of the fact that gender issues have not been addressed well in the national adaptation plans. So because of the evidence that we are generating and the conversations that are happening, the national adaptation plans are being reviewed and gender is being considered. In Zambia, the Ministry of Green Economy saw that there was need for their staff to be trained on nature-based solutions. These are the gaps that are coming up and being addressed. Lastly, in Ghana, Farm Radio and other stakeholders are working with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture still to facilitate communication or conversations on climate change adaptation and nature-based solutions. So we are seeing a lot of debate happening. And as I conclude, I would say that it's important for us to embrace these innovations that help us to speak, to share, that give forum for women and youth to speak up as well. And interactive radio is one way that we can do that, a cost-friendly way to reach millions. Thank you very much.
So maybe in the interest of time, we will try and take your presentations hopefully towards the end, unless anyone has any one or two questions, maybe we have that. Okay, please go ahead. If you can keep it quick. And Joel, I'll request you to come make yourself ready.
Thank you for the presentation. Mine is to check on the M&E side. I don't know whether the presenter is getting the question.
Sorry. Gertrude, I think there's a question. You can try and take it.
I'm asking about the M&E. How do you measure the impact of the communication of the radio program? Do you check like improvement in yields or increase in income or something because of the messages? Yeah, the change that comes because of this.
Yeah, this is yours. I'll prompt you in and then you can do like 10 minutes. Okay, but then no Q&A. Okay.
So I can use this. I can use this arrow.
You use this.
We are seeing some of the livelihood improvements that are happening. Depending on what allow me to also say a shout out to my colleague, the Digital Innovation Manager in Farm Radio International.
Okay, great, cool. Oh, yeah, so the next presenter is Joel. Over to you, Joel.
Thank you.
You have 15 minutes, yeah?
Thank you.
Inclusive of Q&A, so please clarify.
All right. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Joel, the Program Manager for Artificial Intelligence for Agriculture and Food Systems Innovation Research Network. That is sponsored by IDRC and CDED. And I just want to present this to show how we effectively localized impact through inclusion, through inspiration and innovation. So we're presenting this with the title Enhancing Africa's Agriculture and Food Systems Through Responsible and Gender Inclusive AI Innovation. So we're drawing from lessons learned from the Artificial Intelligence for Agriculture and Food Systems Innovation Research Network. So the network is, this is how the presentation goes, but I don't need to go through because of time. So let's go straight into the presentation. So the AI4AFS in short is a consortium of partners, ICTPer, ATPS, and Kumasi Hive. Kumasi Hive is based in Ghana. It's a tech, a hub that actually, or a tech hub that pushes for rapid prototyping of ideas. So we're interested in commercialization of products. And then the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology is also focused on managing the problems we see in pests. So they are partners in it, and ATPS is leading it as a policy think tank. So we also wanted to influence policy. That is just about the partners. But what is the background? We all know, yeah, we have discussed over time that there is problem in food production relating to population growth, because it's expected that Africa will reach 2.6 billion by 2050. but we need to feed this growing population. And we're faced with critical challenges, climate change. We also have issues around the pandemics that come, insecurity, and very harsh socioeconomic conditions. So these serious challenges, to overcome them, we believe that emerging technology, we're talking about ICT, which AI is part of, information communication technology, will prove to be such tools to leapfrog the transformations we need. But these transformations should be responsible and should be inclusive. That is the only way impacts can be localized. So the goal of the network is to advance responsible development, deployment, and scaling. These three key focus and of homegrown research. We're talking about locally led research. And so specifically, we want these researchers to help them deepen the understanding of how to develop, deploy, and scale responsible AI. And to do that, we focused on building the capacity, because that is needed, building the capacity of African innovators and researchers to develop and deploy these responsible AI innovations in agriculture and food systems. And finally, inform, because when you have this data, you can inform policy and practice. And that's also why we're here, to share experiences so that policymakers can actually pick out information from what we did and then implement. So we have also, in the context of our discussion so far, we have seen areas of application, but due to climate change, we noticed that most work being done in AI innovation focuses on disease management because of the climate change issues. So we know that AI innovations can be used in pest detection, soil health assessment, market focusing, but the consortium were focused on FAO's definition of the areas of food security, which is food access, availability, food stability, and food utilization. So we make sure that innovations that we will be funding will cut across these key focus areas. So I want to go straight to the cases in the network, very transformative cases we have. We want to focus on three cuts across East Africa, West Africa. And to give you an information of these projects, we selected 10 grantees to fund them with over $50,000 to $60,000. And we made sure that we also included the voices of the researchers, the marginalized women. So we had 5 female-led consortium and 5 male-led. We're intentional about that because if you look at the statistics of women researchers in AI in Africa, very low, it's 25%, as against over 75% male involvement. So we're intentional about including them in our selection. And we were also interested in partnership that worked. So these were not just researchers. So we were intentional about forming researchers that form consortium with private sector actors and civil society organizations who work on the ground. Because researchers can only publish, get data, but when we talk about implementing impacts or having impacts on the ground, the civil society organizations have been working on the ground with the farmers, and they can help mainstream this. So this use case in Ghana was a disease detection, detection of crop pests and diseases using deep learning algorithm based on deployed on mobile and web application. But on this mobile, they leveraged, because they had a meeting with the farmers, understanding what the farmers need, they understood the problem of data infrastructure. And so they had an offline mode mobile detection system so that is domiciled, whether you are online or offline, the system can detect diseases across 4 main crops, cashew, and it was actually made to also suit the language. For instance, you can get information in English, Akan, and the Twi language in Ghana. So this was deployed in an inclusive manner. The farmers were involved from the design, and we had this concept about design by inclusion. Most times we look at these farmers as not knowledgeable, but they are very knowledgeable. So designing the AI tools with their voices will mean increased adoption. So in the second use case in Kenya, you had geospatial research implementing this project that focused on early warning system diagnosed, for tuta absoluta. It's a problem for tomato farmers. And so geospatial research partnered with the JKU, that is the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture, and then developed this tool. It's called the PEMOS tool that helps you to actually detect, based on satellite information, the early presence of tuta. And so you can warn the farmers to take some measures so that it will not have a serious effect. Again, it was developed based on the need of the farmer. The farmers actually said that this is a problem, and that is why at the point of adoption, the farmers were interested and worked with them. And the next one was in Nigeria. One thing unique about this project in Nigeria was it had to work with the farmers. Their first goal was to develop this AI disease detection system, but the farmers said, we need more of extension service. So they had to develop the AI disease detection system, a real-time disease detection system with an e-extension application that the farmer can communicate with extension officers in real time, send messages. If they cannot diagnose, they will send pictures and the extension agents can relate back to them in real time. But the AI disease detection for now was a two-class disease detection that says healthy or unhealthy. They used not a mobile application, but they deployed it in the Raspberry Pi in real time and deployed it in the farm with cameras. So using VNC server and VNC viewer, they could in real time from the comfort of their homes, see their farms to understand the stage of the plant and whether it is healthy. Again, they went further. The farmer said, we have problem of water management. So they went further to develop a text-based irrigation activation system. The farmer can query the farm, text-based SMS, understand the soil moisture conditions, and then use the text message activation system to activate the irrigation on site, all powered by solar. So this is what they did. But what were the things coming out? Actually, our strategy in this network was the co-creation approach, gender inclusion, capacity building. Co-creation means the voices of the locals must be heard. We should co-develop these tools with them for ease of adoption. Inclusion means understanding the dynamics. There was a time we were talking about percentage of people that had mobile phones. I didn't hear the percentage of women and the percentage of men that had these mobile phones. But if you look at the number of people domiciled in smallholder farmers, there are more women than men. And when you bring technology, it creates more barriers. Men take up technology faster than women. So we must understand these dynamics and involve them from also the design stage. So we made sure that we're capacity building. That is training, both for the end users and for the researchers. So there were intentional training capacity programs with experts in the area of data management. They were training in responsible AI. They were training in carbon footprint reporting, because at the time you develop these models, you also watch your carbon footprints. So to track it, they were trained to use code carbon to track this so that they will know how their practices affect the environment. That is important. So through this approach, we made it very inclusive. So we are at the stage of scaling responsible AI. The next phase of the sponsorship would be to scale this responsible AI. So what do we envisage? We want to make sure that we influence policy. Because, for instance, I give this example, a situation where a country invests very low percentage in science, technology, and innovation, and invest much in sponsoring people in government, that country cannot make any progress. And that is why policy is important to drive system change. So with this evidence on ground, we're informing and engaging many governments, and we're happy that we have informed a lot of policies. For instance, it was our push that made Nigeria engaged in Nigerian Minister of Digital Economy, and we had a strategy where we have a discussion, and then we started an AI strategy in Nigeria. And we believe that it is based on evidence on the ground. So we're also emphasizing that in the next stage, there will be more capacity building for researchers in Africa, specifically to imbibe the culture of inclusion. We produce a lot of researchers, but they don't have impact on the ground. So building the capacity to deploy, develop, and scale inclusive technology. Then we talk about ecosystem of collaboration. We must collaborate. If we don't collaborate, there will be no impact. Just as we have the IoT and we can't see the rural farmers using the IoT tools. So what is our vision? And we want you to share this vision with us. Please, let's join in transformation. Let's co-create, let's work together with these rural farmers. And in realizing that vision, I have said, collaborate, contribute, proactively address those. We must identify and say, this is a problem. We want to solve it. We must be intentional about our approach now in development by bringing the voices of the marginalized into the development process. In such way, we can succeed. We want to thank the donors, especially IDRC and CEDA, and we also thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity. In case of contact, we can share some contacts with you to collaborate. But we want to collaborate, so we are looking for opportunities to collaborate to push this forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Maybe we can have one question, a very short, crisp question and a crisp answer, if anybody has one. Otherwise, I'm afraid we really need to move quickly. No questions? All right. So may I next invite Violet from CABI. Let me pull up your presentation. Nah, I think let me try. I think I should be good. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The good thing is when you put it in a presentation mode, it seems to come. So that's good. So try to use this to know your source.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon again. My name is Violet Ochieng. I'm a research officer. I'm also an environmentalist and agricultural entomologist by profession. And in addition to that, I'm also a trained drone pilot. I work as a research officer for CABI. CABI is Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International. And I'm so happy and humbled to be here today to give a presentation on how, as an organization, as a scientific organization, how we are using also AI to solve agricultural problems. So I'll give a presentation on AI-powered drones for precision pest management. So just to give an overview about what CABI does, or what is CABI. Like I said, CABI is Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International. It's a non-profit organization, and basically we improve lives of farmers by doing research that can improve agriculture and also solve environmental problems. So of course, after doing research, we share the information and knowledge with the plant health practitioners so that they can be able to use that knowledge or information to improve on the areas such as maybe pest detection. We give them recommendation on how best they can control a certain pest or even a certain disease or invasive weeds that we work on. So the reason why we, as CABI, we are interested, or we improve people's life, we do research in agriculture and environment, is because there's a great concern. World population is increasing, and of course, there's need to produce more food. And as a result, we will realize that the people are growing, people are expanding in terms of population, and also because we need to produce more food, there is also another problem because we see pests and diseases, they are emerging. And if you compare maybe what is happening now and what was happening before, it's totally different. Maybe it's because of climate change. For them who are in Kenya, or for those who had maybe the story of death at locust. So for example, in Kenya, we saw that infestation that happened maybe 70 years ago. So what does that mean? It means that with the rate at which climate change is bringing all those impacts and everything, we are continuing to see problems by increasing emerging of pests and diseases and even the invasive weeds. And that means we need to come up with some of the technologies that can complement the existing ones in early identification of these pests and diseases, and also to provide maybe control measures in a different way compared to the existing methods. So some of the existing methods, for example, when we talk about agriculture, and of course we focus on diseases and pests. The present methods of scouting or even monitoring and identifying most of these pests and diseases are tiresome. When you look at going to the field and you want to walk from one place to another, you want to compare or even to name and identify a specific disease or a specific pest, or even to know the specific areas that have been infested in your farm. It takes a lot of time, and also it requires a lot of resources because you will need many plant doctors or many people to do that particular work. And also when you look at the methods that we have currently for application of pesticides, when you talk of people working with handheld sprayers, how long are you going to spray maybe a certain area? And because we've talked about most of these emerging pests, they spread very fast. If you talk of diseases, maybe in some can multiply even within 3 days, within 4 days, within a week. So that means we need to come up with technologies that can identify most of these problems at an early stage. Then we provide a solution before we see some of these crop losses. Because these present methods, for example, when you talk of scouting, you can only see a symptom or a sign to tell you that this is a particular disease or a particular pest. But with most of the emerging technologies, based on the spectral signature or even the reflectance of a particular crop, you can be able to detect or even to say that maybe a specific area in your farm has been infested and you need to apply the control measures as soon as possible. So AI-powered drones, they offer most of these solutions. And many people in Kenya or even in other countries are already using AI-powered drones for early detection of pests, doing surveillance, mapping, and even application of pesticides. And that's where we are now coming in as Kabi, because you'll find that most of the drone operators are using, they use drones to maybe do mapping or apply pesticide, but they cannot integrate well with science. Because even as you apply pesticide, you need to know that these are toxic chemicals that we are using. So you need to ensure that at the end of the day, the pesticide you are spraying using that with that drone will be maybe a certain standard as required by the manufacturer of that pesticide. And that's where Kabi is coming in to do research. So we are not, we don't do it for commercial purposes. We don't give drone services. Like, for example, we don't go to the field to map for farmers to get paid. We do for research. We do research on, we come up with standard operating procedures. We establish the key optimum parameters for using drones when you want to do surveillance or spraying. And of course, we publish, we share in such like conferences and events. And also we share with drone operators so that they can be able to improve on some areas. And it's true that when you look at maybe when I talk about drones and when you compare the drones that we have currently and the ones that were there before, maybe some years ago, the ones that people were using as toys, current drones are AI powered, because in terms of navigation, as a drone pilot, I will not even control much. I can, after giving it instruction, the drone will just go to the field to collect the large amount of data. It will bring it back and I'll be able to analyze. And even through analysis, I don't sweat because everything is just AI. I just give instruction. Then the system will be able to run for me all those results, and I'll be able to make a decision because I have expertise in environment and also entomology. So I can be able to tell from the images after doing analysis, from the maps, I can be able to tell that this particular problem is as a result of this and this. So I can say that AI-powered drones have, they are currently improving the agricultural sector. because when you look at, for example, in terms of navigation, they can be able to detect even the height, even the obstacle. If you put it, if you maybe control it, or even if you select maybe a certain height, maybe 10 meters above the ground, and it happened that the place you are going to do mapping has some tall trees, maybe of 30 meters above the ground, the drone is intelligent. It can be able to detect that. It will increase its height. Then after passing those obstacles, it will reduce to the height that you already set initially. So that is all AI. If you look at maybe data analysis, there you'll just need to give instruction, and you just tell, you'll just group, for example, and you tell it that if you see maybe a crop leaf that has this particular maybe things, maybe holes, or maybe some symptoms, then it means that it has been infested by this particular disease. If you see a leaf that is green and it doesn't have anything on its on its surface, then it means that it's a healthy one. Then based on that information that you are giving it, it can be able to run and give you the answers that you require. So basically, when I talk of AI-powered drones, I meant that this is a drone, or even the whole process. You are not doing much as the person using the drone, but the drone is doing much for you, because you're just giving instructions, and at the end of the day, you are going to get all the results that you require. So there are some of the experiments or even projects that we have done at Kabi. So I'm not just talking about advantages of AI-powered drones, but I'm talking out of experience, because we have tested so far 2 projects. The first one was on desert locust. For them who can remember, between 2020 to 2022, there was a serious problem of desert locust, and this occurred as a result of climate change, where cyclone brought heavy rainfall in the empty quarter of Arabian Peninsula. And of course, that improved or even increased the rate at which desert locusts were multiplying. So when the conditions dried out in those areas, they had to start moving to other places, looking for suitable conditions, of course, for breeding, and also for where they can get good food. So in that process, aided by wind speed and wind direction, they found their way in Africa and even in Kenya. So when they came to Kenya at that time, existing methods were presenting challenges because people could do, by that time, before managing a pest, you must do surveillance, because it is through surveillance that will make you to decide on the type of control measures that you need to do. And also it will tell you maybe the area covered, or even the stage of that pest. And that will inform the decision that you will make when you want to do control. So in that case, because drone has never been used by then to control locusts or even to do surveillance, and we had a problem. So we asked ourselves, how are we going to do it? How are we going to move from this problem now that we know clearly that drone can do this work, but we didn't have any information, any published maybe research about it. So we decided to do research to come up with those parameters, and even to establish the standard operating procedures that people can use to do surveillance of desert locusts using drones, and even to apply to do spraying. So like I said, the first case study was on desert locusts, and because by then it was a problem. So for surveillance, we wanted to come up with a height that can be used to do surveillance, and also a height that will be you will not take much time doing surveillance, a height that will present also clear pictures that you'll be able to see to make a decision. And this is because for some pests are different in terms of biology and behavior. And in the case of locusts, we have 2 types of surveillance. So the first one, because they are found in desert areas, so there's usually what is called assessment surveillance, where you're just going to the field to assess the area. You want to know whether there are suitable conditions for locusts to occur in those areas. So in that manner, if for example, in desert area, you do surveillance or mapping and you see a green vegetation, that will show the likeliness of locusts to occur in that area. So what we normally do is, so the first step is to do that general surveillance. You look at the key parameters or the key indicators that are in that area. Then the second one is after prioritizing to those specific areas, then you now do detailed surveillance to confirm the stage or even the area that has been infested. Then you make a decision, and then you inform the control team. So in our case, we wanted to come up with 2 types of heights. which height can give us detailed information about the stage of the locust and also about the area infested with the locust, and what height can give us the maybe a good height that one can use to do the general surveillance, just to assess or even to see the indicators that will show the likeliness of locust to occur in those areas. So we tested 5 heights, 30 to 110 meters above the ground, and there are some of the parameters that we these parameters such as flight time, number of photos, and resolution and flight length. So we were recording this at different heights. And of course, we did analysis and we wanted to see how they were different at different heights. So from the results, if you're mapping at very low height, the drone will tend to take detailed information of the area or something or the detailed information of something that you are trying to map or to do surveillance on. Then it means that the drone will take a lot of images. Then a lot of images will mean that will take a lot of time to do your analysis. And also at the same time, the drone will be going through many flight paths, and it will take a lot of time, and it will go through, it will cover a larger length or even area compared to when you're mapping at very high height. So these are the parameters that we compared. And also after collecting, so at each and every height, we were launching a drone and the locust was spread on the ground. So the drone was taking pictures. Then these pictures were analyzed with a software known as Pix4D. And we were stitching the pictures together to form a map. So at the end of the day, we had maps for that represent 30 meters, 50 meters, 70, 90, and 110. And we were trying to see how different are they in terms of clarity, because at the end of the day, it is from those maps that people use to make decision, whether you are able to see the locust. So based on our results, we found out that when you're mapping at 30 to 50 meters, you can see locust, especially, but this will also depend on the type of drone that you are using. In our case, we use a multispectral drone, which had a good resolution. So we were able to see the locust even at 50 meters, but at 30 was very clear. Then at 110 meters, because it was very high, we could not see the locust, but at least we could see some trees on the background. So that means that when people want to do general surveillance of desert locust in desert areas, where their aim is just to see the green vegetation, then they can use very high height because they will take less time to prioritize the specific areas that requires detailed surveillance. Then, of course, for spraying, like I said earlier, we are dealing with the toxic pesticides, and they have also impact on environment, human beings, and even livestock. So we needed to come up with the operating procedures or even the key parameters that people working on desert locust projects should consider before using drone to apply the pesticide. So in that case, we did another experiment. We laid white papers on the ground in 3 lines as shown in the diagram above. Then we loaded black ink on the drone. Then we did spraying at different heights. The idea was to see how the black ink will deposit on the white papers. And this will show us how pesticide will act when you are now doing the actual spraying in the field. Then now after spraying at different heights, we sprayed at 2.5, 5 meters, 7.5, 10 meters, and 12.5 meters above the ground. And after spraying, because the droplets were so many on the papers, we could not calculate manually. So we use another software, it's called Dropleaf, which was able to calculate for us the total number of droplets in each and every paper per height. Then we compared. So so for us to come up with the optimum height for spraying pesticides to control or even to manage desert locust, the pesticide that we were supposed to use, which is the metarhizium, we know its volume application rate. Now, based on that information, we calculated the droplets density that one is supposed to spray when we're using that particular pesticide. And then we compared the droplets density that we calculated by the droplet density that we observed at different heights from 2.5 to 12.5. Then we found out that when we are spraying, of course, at very low height, the droplets were 152.5, for example, in 1 centimeter square. And if you compare 152.5 droplets density with the one that we calculated, you'll realize that it was way too high compared to the calculated value. And this means when you are spraying at very low height, you can end up overspraying the area. And this also brings another problem of maybe contamination or contaminating even the non-target organisms or non-targeted areas. When you're spraying at very high height at 12.5 meters above the ground, The droplets that we observed were 28.3 compared to 45 droplets that we calculated. And this means that when you're spraying at very high height, then there are chances that you may underspray the area. And this is very important because some pests may also develop resistance. When they're not receiving the correct amount of pesticide, then there are chances that they will develop resistance. So we wanted to confirm what we have done on the previous experiment by using real locusts. So we put locusts in wire mesh cages, then we arranged them in the field. We loaded the pesticide, we did spraying, then after spraying, because we sprayed a fungi which does not have high knockdown effect, they don't kill immediately. They take sometimes because they must enter into the system of the insect, germinate, then in the process they sporulate, then they kill the content of the insect. So in that case, after spraying, we took the locust in the laboratory, we monitored mortality rate for 21 days. Then after that, we compared mortality at different heights. So we realized that, for example, if you are spraying a fungi, something that causes sickness to the insect you're trying to control, if you spray even at high, the insect will still die, because as long as it gets maybe as a quantity of that pesticide you are trying to spray, it will cause infection, and at the end of the day it will die. But the difference will be the time that it will take to die, depending on the quantity that it has received. Okay. So the next case study that we have done with drone is papaya mealybug. So pawpaw is also an important fruit in Kenya, but recently there's another pest. It's called mealybug. It's really causing damages to that pest, and recently many farmers had to cut their pawpaw trees because they didn't know how to control it. So as Kabi, we usually do what is called biological control, where we rear the parasitoids, then we release in the field to manage the population of the pests. So in that case, for that thing to work, for that biological control to work, you must identify exact places that are infested. Then you release that insect in those specific areas. So for you to do that with ground methods, it's so hard. So we tried using drones to identify those pawpaw that are infested, and it was really effective. So though the project is still ongoing, we've just done that the last 2 weeks. So we are yet to do analysis and come up with a conclusion on that. And then we'll be releasing the parasitoid in the field. We'll be doing mapping to conduct assessment, impact assessment, and that we'll also be doing that using drones. Another aspect or another example that we have done is there's this weed, it's called Opuntia cactus. It's really affecting arid and semi-arid areas in Kenya. And other methods have been tried, but they were not successful. So we are also rearing another insect we release in the field to feed on it. So for that also to work, we needed to go to the field to map the areas and then to come up with specific points that are infested by these cactus, so that by the time we are releasing the insect, we are sure that it will be acting on the particular problem that you want it to act on. Then after that, we'll be doing also impact assessment, just to ensure that whatever we are doing is working on. And also, you cannot talk about a technology without mentioning challenges. So there are many challenges why many people are also not adopting technology. So the first one is cost. Of course, to buy a drone, to maintain a drone is high. And also training. We have less training schools. And of course, for you to go through that training is very expensive. We have regulations which are also different per different countries. So it's also hard to harmonize them. And another thing is processing.
Please.
On processing that data, because it's not a matter of just going to the field to do mapping. At the end of the day, how are you going to analyze your data so that you come up with something that can even inform a decision? So embracing the future new trends in drone technology. So another problem that maybe we observed is efficiency. How many drones are you going to use to ensure that maybe you map a large area, or even you do spraying in a large area? So we have what is called a swarming drone, where you can have maybe 10 of them or 20 drones. You control them at the same time. So you use one controller to control maybe 20 drones. So with that, we feel like in future, we will be able to improve efficiency, and we will be able to map or even to spray a bigger area using one drone. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Violet. Do we have Emeka here? Emeka? That's supposed to be the last speaker. Okay, so if anybody have any questions for Violet, now that we don't have the fourth speaker, we do have some time for some. Okay, please go ahead. Just press the button and just go
Yeah.
for it.
Thank you for the presentation. Mine is on the costs. If the farmer wants to access help from this particular invention, who bears the cost and how affordable is it to farmers?
So for sure, it's expensive and you cannot advise a farmer to have their own drone. So what we do is we have the drone companies in Kenya that provide those services at a affordable cost. So we do, for example, if a farmer comes to me, I'll take them to the drone operators. So for example, in terms of spraying, they charge like 600 Kenyan shillings per acre. So to me, I feel that that is affordable. And as Kabi, what you want to do, you see the way maybe in different counties, they have tractors where farmers can hire at a cheaper price to do maybe planting or something. So the same thing, we are hoping that in future, we are going to have drones in different counties, and we are going to have young youths who can operate and do analysis, collect data, and even do analysis in those counties. Because drone, it's complex. You cannot advise a farmer to have their own drone, collect their own data, do analysis. Processing that thing is even complex. So for farmer to own a drone, I don't think it's even possible.
My question is about ethical consideration for the people using drone. Like if the drone goes to a community, I know that there are some ethical rules that are regulating the use of drones. So how do you go about ethical consideration, because it infringes the privacy of some other people when you just when the drone goes into their farm and maybe it can collect information which maybe not be, maybe for the farmer may be willing to share that information.
Okay, so so we have regulations that governs drone use. For example, I'll talk about Kenya because I've worked in Kenya. So for any time you are going to do a drone operation in any place, you must notify Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. And for you to notify them, you must attach a letter from the ground. It's called a letter of no objection. So you must contact the people on the ground, or even it's a farmer or the county government or the person who is involved in whatever you're going to do. They must give you a letter showing that they've given you a permission to operate in their place, and they have no objection for you operating a drone in their area. So after attaching that letter to Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, they'll be sure that you going there is already permitted. And also there are other rules that as a drone operator, you cannot fly a drone on top of people, their properties, without telling them what you are doing. So even if you go to the field, you must have a conversation with them. You must explain whatever you are doing, and you must tell them that, you know what, I'm just trying to collect this and it will benefit you in this manner. So I'm not going to collect any data about you or about your privacy.
Right. Okay. Thanks a lot. I think with that, we can close this breakout session. Now, as you can see from the agenda, we break for tea and we convene back at 3:30. So at 3:30, from 3:30 to 4:15, we'll just be having two breakouts. One breakout will be in this entire hall, so we'll be removing the partition, and the other breakout will be in that other room in 720. Okay. Enjoy your tea. Thank you.